The stars look different from here. Captain Frank Miller stood at the main viewport of the USV Pioneer, Earth's first deep space exploration vessel. After 3 years of travel, they had finally reached Alpha Centauri. "Captain, sensors are picking up something unusual," said Olivia Garcia, her eyes fixed on the science station display. "Large objects moving at high speed toward our position." Frank walked over to her station. "Natural phenomenon." "No, sir. These are ships. Big ones." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. They now had their answer. "Alert status," Frank ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Alan, get defensive systems online, but do not activate weapons. Let's not start our first meeting with shots fired." Alan Wright, the tactical specialist, nodded and moved quickly to his station. "Defenses ready, Captain." "Put it on screen," Frank said. The main display filled with the image of approaching vessels. They were massive, each one at least 5 times the size of the Pioneer. Their dark, armored hulls reflected little light, giving them the appearance of moving shadows against the stars. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Diane Perry reported. Frank straightened his uniform. "Accept the transmission." The screen changed to show the interior of the alien vessel. Frank and his crew found themselves staring at bipedal reptilian beings with thick, scaled skin that looked like natural armor. The alien in the center was larger than the others, with deep red scales and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner fire. "Human vessel." The alien spoke in perfect English, somehow having decoded their language already. "I am High Commander Vexthar of the Zorkai Dominion. You have entered space claimed by our empire." Frank stepped forward. "I am Captain Frank Miller of Earth's United Space Vessel Pioneer. We come in peace on a mission of exploration. We were not aware this system was claimed." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course you weren't. Your species is young and ignorant. Our scanners have analyzed your vessel and life forms." Vexthar turned to speak to another Zorkai before facing the screen again. "You are classified as a non-threat, Category 4 species." Ellen whispered to Frank, "Is that good or bad?" The Zorkai continued, "Your soft skin, weak muscles, and fragile bones mark you as non-warriors. You require artificial environments and protection from even mild radiation or temperature changes. You are." Vexthar seemed to search for the right word. "Unimpressive." Frank felt his face grow warm. "With respect, Commander, there's more to our species than physical traits. Perhaps, but not of interest to the Dominion. We have conquered 12 star systems and faced worthy opponents. You," Vexthar waved a clawed hand dismissively, "are barely worth the energy of this transmission." The crew exchanged glances, shock and anger evident on their faces. "You may keep your home system," Vexthar declared. "We have no interest in it, but you will not expand further into the galaxy. Return to your Earth and share this message. Know your place in the cosmic order." Before Frank could respond, the transmission ended. "They're moving away," Olivia reported. "No weapons charge." "They didn't even consider us worth fighting," Alan said, his voice tight with anger. Frank looked around at his crew, noting the mix of relief at surviving and the burning insult they all felt. "Set course for home," he ordered quietly. "We need to report this." As the Pioneer turned back toward Earth, Frank stared at the departing Zorkai ships. The aliens had dismissed humans as weak, as non-warriors unworthy of their attention. They would learn how wrong they were. The room fell silent as the recording ended. The United Earth Defense Council sat around the large oval table, their faces showing a mix of concern and anger. The video from the Pioneer's encounter with the Zorkai had been playing on the main screen. "So that's it." General Patricia Ward broke the silence. "Some lizard people tell us to stay in our corner of the galaxy, and we just accept it." Susan Baker, the military's top alien intelligence analyst, stood up. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes showed she had been working without sleep. The Zorkai are not just some lizard people, General. From the data we collected, they have technology far beyond ours and have conquered multiple star systems. Their ships are bigger, faster, and more powerful than anything we have. Which means we need to build better ships, another council member said. Susan shook her head. It's not that simple. The Zorkai didn't dismiss us because our technology is behind theirs. They dismissed us because of what we are physically. She tapped her tablet, and the screen showed comparison charts between human and Zorkai biology. Jack Carter, our head xenobiologist, has been studying the scans we got of the Zorkai. Jack, a tall man with glasses and a lab coat that looked like he had slept in it, stepped forward. The Zorkai evolved on a world with higher gravity, more radiation, and extreme temperature shifts, he explained. Their skin is naturally armored, they have redundant organs, and their muscle density is 3 times ours. To them, we look like children. So we're doomed to be second-class citizens of the galaxy because we didn't evolve on a death world? Asked Counselor Ramirez. At the back of the room, Lieutenant Cynthia Ford had been listening quietly. She had been the combat specialist on the Pioneer and had seen the Zorkai up close. Permission to speak, sir? She asked. General Ward nodded. The Zorkai think being a warrior means having thick skin and big muscles. They're wrong. Cynthia walked to the front of the room. Humans survived on Earth, not because we were the strongest or had the sharpest claws. We survived because we adapted. We made tools. We formed groups. We outsmarted predators that could tear us apart. She looked around at the council members. The Zorkai are using the wrong measuring stick. They're judging us by their standards, not ours. Susan's eyes lit up. She's right. We need to make them see us differently. And how do we do that? Asked General Ward. The Zorkai respect strength, but they have a narrow view of what strength is, Susan explained. From what we've learned, their society values direct confrontation. They don't appear to value things like adaptability, creativity, or psychological resilience, areas where humans excel. Jack nodded excitedly. Human endurance is actually remarkable in different ways. We can go without sleep longer than many species. We can run long distances that would exhaust larger predators. Our brains can solve problems in creative ways. So what are you suggesting? Asked the general. Susan and Jack exchanged glances. We need to show them what human warriors really are, Susan said, not by trying to outmuscle them, but by demonstrating our unique strengths. Cynthia stepped forward again. We need to challenge them on our terms, not theirs. The council room buzzed with conversation. The idea was bold, perhaps foolish, but it had sparked something. General Ward tapped her fingers on the table, thinking. Finally, she looked up. Develop a plan, she ordered. I want options for how we change the Zorkai's assessment of humanity. As the meeting ended, Susan, Jack, and Cynthia stayed behind, already discussing possibilities. We need to show them that a new kind of warrior race has just emerged in the galaxy, Cynthia said, her eyes bright with determination. And they have no idea what's coming. Operation Reclassification is a go, General Richard Hayes announced to the small group gathered in the underground briefing room. 6 weeks had passed since the Pioneer's return, and Earth had been preparing its response to the Zorkai dismissal. Commander Paul Rogers stood at attention. At 42, he had gray at his temples, but the fitness of a man 10 years younger. As the chosen leader for this mission, he felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. Your team has been selected based on exemplary skills in areas we believe will challenge Zorkai perceptions, General Hayes explained. Each of you represents a different aspect of human strength. The general motioned to the wall screen, which displayed profiles of each team member. Kate Martinez, Navy SEAL, top scores in tactical adaptation and improvisation. Kate nodded. She was shorter than most in the room, but carried herself with quiet confidence. Her specialty was finding ways to win when outgunned and outnumbered. Doug Phillips, engineer, created the adaptive shield system that's now standard on all our ships. Doug pushed his glasses up. Unlike the others, he had no military background, but his technological innovations had saved countless lives during the Mars colony crisis. Owen Clark, extreme environment specialist, survived 30 days in the Antarctic with minimal supplies and scaled Olympus Mons on Mars without supplemental oxygen. Owen gave a slight smile. His skin was weathered from exposure to the harshest conditions on Earth and beyond. And Linda Nelson, negotiation expert, ended the Asia-Pacific conflict through psychological strategy rather than force. Linda, dressed in civilian clothes, stood out among the military personnel. Her expertise was understanding alien psychology and finding leverage points. Together with Commander Rogers, U-5 will return to Zorkai space, the general continued. Your mission is not to fight them, but to change how they see us. Susan Baker stepped forward with a data tablet. We've been studying everything we know about Zorkai culture. They value strength, but they also follow strict codes of honor and respect ritual challenges. She swiped through several screens of alien text and symbols. Their legal codes include something called classification challenge. Even lesser species have the right to request a reassessment once. So we're going to challenge them to a fight? Kate asked. Not exactly, Susan replied. We're going to challenge them to see us clearly. Based on our analysis, the challenge can take many forms. The Zorkai value trial by ordeal as a way to prove worth. Jack Carter, the xenobiologist, joined Susan at the front. We've created simulations of Zorkai environments and challenge types. You'll train in conditions matching their home world, higher gravity, extreme temperatures, and elevated radiation levels. Commander Rogers studied the faces of his team. To be clear, we're not trying to become like the Zorkai. We're showing them what humans actually are. Exactly, said Susan. Don't try to outmuscle them. Show them our adaptability, our ingenuity, our ability to work together, and our mental resilience. These are our warrior traits. The team spent the next month in intensive training. They learned about Zorkai customs and practiced facing challenges designed to test their uniquely human strengths. They studied recordings of Zorkai speech patterns and body language. On the day of departure, they gathered beside their ship, smaller than the Pioneer, but faster and equipped with the latest technology humanity could produce. General Hayes addressed them one final time. Remember, you're not just 5 individuals. You carry the future of our species with you. Commander Rogers looked at his team, ready to change how the galaxy sees humanity. They nodded, determination in their eyes. Then let's show them what a new kind of warrior looks like. The human ship entered orbit around Proxima Centauri, where the Zorkai had established an outpost. From the viewport, the planet looked harsh: red deserts, jagged mountains, and vast seas of dark liquid that wasn't water. They're hailing us, Linda said from the communication station. Commander Rogers nodded. Put them through. The screen flickered to show a Zorkai face. This one had golden scales with black patterns and eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. I am High Commander Grekthar of the Zorkai Outpost Defense. Identify yourselves and your purpose, humans. Paul stepped forward. I am Commander Paul Rogers of Earth. We come to invoke the right of classification challenge. The Zorkai's eyes widened slightly, the first show of surprise they had seen from the aliens. You know of our laws? Grekthar asked. We do, Paul replied. And we formally request a reassessment of humanity's warrior status. There was a long pause. The Zorkai commander seemed to be consulting with others off-screen. Very well, Grekthar finally said. The right of classification challenge is granted to all species, even lesser ones. You may land at these coordinates. The screen showed a landing zone near the Zorkai base. Be warned, humans, the commander added. Few species succeed in changing their classification. You will face trials designed for true warriors. The screen went dark. Kate checked her equipment. They're going to make this as hard as possible. Good, Owen said with a small smile. We didn't come all this way for easy. The human ship landed on the surface, and the team stepped out wearing environmental suits. Even with protection, they could feel the planet's heavy gravity pulling at them. A group of Zorkai warriors waited for them, standing easily in the harsh conditions without any protective gear. Their natural armor gleamed in the red sunlight. Follow, one of them said simply. The humans were led to a large arena-like structure. Inside, dozens of Zorkai watched from elevated platforms. At the center stood High Commander Grekthar. Humans, you have invoked the right of classification challenge. Grekthar's voice boomed through the arena. You will face 5 trials to prove your worth as warriors. Succeed in 3, and your classification will be reconsidered. The commander pointed to a large door. The first trial is the Pit of Endurance. You must survive 1 hour in conditions matching our home world. The door opened to reveal a chamber glowing with heat. Instruments on the human suits immediately warned of extreme temperatures and high radiation. Your protective coverings are allowed for the first 10 minutes only. Grekthar added with what might have been a smile. After that, you must endure as we do. The Zorkai spectators made sounds that seemed like laughter. Doug leaned close to Paul. They expect us to fail. They don't know about our modifications. Paul nodded. Before leaving Earth, each team member had received special treatments to temporarily enhance their heat and radiation resistance. It wouldn't match Zorkai natural abilities, but it might be enough. The second trial, Grekthar continued, will test your strength in our gravity. The third will test your combat skills. The fourth, your resistance to pain. The fifth. He paused dramatically. The fifth is a surprise. Owen studied the Pit of Endurance. They've designed these trials based on their strengths, not ours. Then we'll have to show them our strengths along the way, Linda replied quietly. Commander Rogers stepped forward. We accept your trials, High Commander. The team entered the first trial chamber as the door sealed behind them. The heat hit them like a physical force, and the radiation meters on their suits climbed steadily. Kate looked at her teammates. Remember the plan. We're not trying to be better Zorkai than the Zorkai. We're showing them what humans can do, Paul finished. Let's surprise them. The real challenge had begun. The humans have survived the first 2 trials, a Zorkai observer reported to High Commander Grekthar. Barely, Grekthar replied, watching the exhausted humans recover between challenges. The team had endured the heat and radiation of the first trial through their temporary biological enhancements and clever use of their environment. In the second trial, they had used mechanical assistance hidden in their suits to help them move heavy objects in the high-gravity chamber. They rely on tricks and tools, another Zorkai said with disgust. But they survived, Grekthar noted. Unexpected. Kate Martinez gathered the team in their rest area. Sweat covered her face, and her hands shook slightly from exhaustion. We're playing their game, she said between deep breaths. And we're losing. We passed the first 2 trials, Doug pointed out. Just barely, Kate replied. The combat trial is next. We can't beat them at direct fighting. They're too strong, too fast. Owen nodded. We need to change the rules. Commander Rogers looked at each team member. Kate's right. We're trying to be Zorkai, not humans. Linda, what does their challenge law actually say? Linda pulled out her datapad. It says we must demonstrate warrior qualities worthy of respect. It doesn't specify how. Then let's show them human warrior qualities, Paul decided. The arena doors opened again. A large Zorkai warrior stood in the center, carrying a heavy weapon that looked like a cross between a spear and an axe. The combat trial is simple, Grekthar announced from his viewing platform. Defeat the champion. Paul stepped forward as the team's representative. The Zorkai champion towered over him, muscles rippling under scaled skin. Begin, Grekthar commanded. The Zorkai charge, weapon raised. But instead of trying to fight directly, Paul executed the plan they had quickly formed. First, he threw a small device that Doug had assembled during their rest period. It emitted a high-pitched sound that made the Zorkai pause and shake his head in confusion. They had discovered during their research that Zorkai hearing was sensitive to certain frequencies. Next, Paul used the arena's features, climbing to higher ground and forcing the Zorkai to pursue. The human was lighter and quicker, making him more agile in short bursts. "What is this?" the Zorkai champion growled. "Fight me directly." "I am fighting," Paul replied, using another device that created multiple holographic images of himself, confusing his opponent. From the viewing platform, Grekthar stood up. "This is not combat. This is trickery." Linda stepped forward from the human area. "High Commander, your laws state that combat intelligence is a valid warrior trait. We are demonstrating human combat methods." This caused a stir among the Zorkai observers. "She is correct," an elder Zorkai confirmed after consulting a data terminal. "The laws do not specify the type of combat." The champion, now frustrated, swung wildly at the real Paul, who dodged and used the momentum to send the Zorkai stumbling. The crowd watched in silence as the human used strategy, environment, and technology to gradually wear down his opponent. Finally, when the Zorkai champion was exhausted and confused, Paul placed a small marker on the warrior's chest, their equivalent of a killing blow. "The human succeeds," Grekthar announced reluctantly. For the fourth trial, resistance to pain, Owen volunteered. But instead of enduring physical torture as expected, he showed the Zorkai records of human explorers surviving in extreme environments, soldiers continuing to fight despite severe injuries, and civilians enduring hardships that would break many warriors. "Humans do not ignore pain," Owen explained. "We accept it, learn from it, and continue despite it. That is our strength." The Zorkai Council conferred, clearly unsettled by this different interpretation of the trial. "These are not the trials as we intended," Grekthar complained. "But they are the trials as your laws allow," Linda replied. "We are showing you what human warriors truly are." For the first time, the Zorkai looked at the humans with uncertainty, and perhaps a glimmer of respect. "This has gone too far," War Master Vexkor growled, slamming his clawed fist on the metal table. The Zorkai High Council chamber was divided. Half the members looked concerned, the other half angry. High Commander Grekthar stood his ground. "The humans have passed 4 trials. Our laws are clear." "Laws can be interpreted," Vexkor replied. His scales were dark red with black patterns, marking him as one of the highest-ranking military leaders. "These humans use tricks and machines. They are not warriors. They are clever prey animals pretending to be predators." An elder council member named Sherthak raised a hand for silence. "The question before us is not whether humans match our physical abilities. Clearly, they do not. The question is whether their adaptability and innovation qualify as warrior traits." Vexkor's eyes narrowed. "If we acknowledge every clever species as warriors, where does it end? Our position in the galaxy is based on strength. Perhaps our definition of strength has been too narrow," Grekthar suggested. This was too much for Vexkor. "You've been charmed by these soft-skinned creatures." He turned to his loyal followers. "Secure the council chamber. The humans must be contained before they spread their dangerous ideas further." Armed Zorkai warriors loyal to Vexkor entered the chamber. The council members were too surprised to resist as the War Master declared, "I am taking emergency control for the safety of our dominion." In their quarters, the human team was unaware of the coup. They were preparing for their final demonstration when the door slammed open. Zorkai guards entered with weapons drawn. "You will come with us," the lead guard ordered. Paul stepped forward. "What's happening?" "We've completed the trials. War Master Vexkor has declared you threats to the Dominion. You are now prisoners." The humans were marched through corridors to a secure holding area. Through viewports, they saw a large Zorkai warship preparing for departure. "That doesn't look good," Kate whispered. A younger Zorkai guard named Krenzar hung back from the others. When they reached the cells, he spoke quietly to the humans. The War Master has ordered a fleet to your home system. He fears your species might become a threat if allowed to develop further. The team exchanged alarmed glances. Why are you telling us this? Linda asked, studying the guard's body language. Some of us disagree with the War Master. Your adaptability is not a trick. It is a strength we have not seen before. Krenzar looked nervously over his shoulder. I must go before the others notice. After the guards left, the team gathered in the center of their cell. Earth has no defenses against a full Zork fleet, Paul said grimly. Doug examined the cell. We need to get out of here and warn Earth. How? Kate asked. Even if we escape, our ship is probably under guard. Doug smiled slightly. Remember why we're here. Human adaptability. He removed a hidden panel from his boot and took out several small components. I've been collecting materials since we arrived. Nothing special individually, but together. You can make something useful, Owen finished. Exactly. It won't be pretty, but I think I can create a device to short-circuit the door lock. While Doug worked, Linda shared what she had learned about Zorkai psychology. That young guard, Krenzar, isn't the only one questioning Vexcor. I've noticed several Zorkai watching our trials with curiosity rather than contempt. We need allies, Paul decided. If we escape, we need to find the Zorkai who might help us. I have an idea about that too, Linda said. During our research, I learned that lower-ranked Zorkai often feel overlooked by the warrior elite. Our human qualities, teamwork, innovation, might appeal to them. Meanwhile on Earth, Susan Baker stared at her sensor readings with growing alarm. Multiple Zorkai signatures approaching the solar system, she reported to General Ward. They're coming much sooner than we expected. The general's face was grim. Is the defense system ready? As ready as it can be, Susan replied, thinking of the new technologies they had developed based on studying Zorkai systems. Earth was about to face the greatest threat in its history, and their only hope lay with 5 humans trapped on a distant world. Doug's makeshift device worked better than expected. With a spark and a hiss, the cell door unlocked. Let's move, Paul whispered, leading the team into the corridor. They had a plan. Find a communication terminal, warn Earth, then locate allies among the Zorkai who seemed sympathetic to humans. Moving quietly through the base, they avoided patrols by using the ventilation shafts that Doug had mapped during their time there. In a small control room, they found what they needed. Kate stood guard while Doug worked on the terminal. I need 2 minutes to bypass their security, he said, fingers moving quickly over the alien interface. Make it 1, Kate replied, watching the corridor. Doug managed to establish a secured channel to Earth. Paul transmitted a message with vital information about Zorkai ship weaknesses, tactical patterns, and most importantly, a frequency that disrupted Zorkai coordination systems. Earth Defense Command. This is Rogers. Zorkai fleet approaching is hostile. Use electromagnetic disruption on these frequencies. Their ships are vulnerable where hull plating connects to shield generators. He sent detailed technical data that Doug had gathered. We'll try to disable command ship from here. Rogers out. As they finished the transmission, alarm sounds blared throughout the base. Time to find those allies, Linda said. Above Earth, the Zorkai attack fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 10 massive warships moved toward the planet. On the bridge of the defense vessel commanded by Captain Frank Miller, the same man who had first encountered the Zorkai, Susan Baker's console lit up. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Commander Rogers. Frank reviewed the data. This is exactly what we need. Implement these countermeasures immediately. All ships target the connection points between hull and shield generators. Earth's smaller vessels moved into position, using the new information to fight in ways the Zorkai never expected. They deployed electromagnetic pulses at the frequencies Paul had sent, disrupting Zorkai communications. They launched targeted cyber attacks on ship systems, rather than trying to match Zorkai firepower directly. On the Zorkai base, the human team had found Krenzar and other lower-ranked Zorkai who questioned War Master Vexkor's decision. "Your skills are different from our traditional warriors," Krenzar told them, "but they are impressive. Not all Zorkai believe you should be destroyed." With their help, the humans reached the base's control center. There, they managed to send a shutdown code to Vexkor's flagship just as it was preparing to fire its main weapon at Earth. In Earth orbit, the battle was turning. The Zorkai, expecting an easy victory, found themselves facing an enemy that fought unlike any they had encountered before. Human ships didn't try to stand and fight. They adapted, used environmental factors, and targeted weaknesses rather than strengths. When Vexkor's flagship suddenly lost power, the remaining Zorkai vessels hesitated. The War Master's screens showed his ship was completely disabled. "Destroy them anyway," he ordered his fleet. But before the other ships could act, Captain Miller's voice came through on all channels. "Zorkai vessels, this is Earth defense. Your flagship is disabled but not destroyed. We could eliminate it, but we choose not to. We offer you the chance to retreat and reconsider." On the flagship, Vexkor raged at this insult, but other Zorkai commanders were confused. The humans had the advantage but weren't pressing it. At that moment, High Commander Grekthar, freed from captivity with help from the human team and their Zorkai allies, took control of communications. "This is High Commander Grekthar to all Zorkai vessels. Stand down." War Master Vexkor acted without council approval. The humans have demonstrated true warrior qualities, not just in strength, but in strategy, innovation, and even mercy. Slowly, the Zorkai ships powered down their weapons. 3 days later, in a formal ceremony attended by representatives from both species, humanity was officially reclassified as a warrior species of exceptional type. The Zorkai proposed an alliance, recognizing that the combination of their physical prowess and human adaptability would create an unmatched force in the galaxy. "We have much to learn from each other," Grekthar told Commander Rogers. Paul nodded. "That's the greatest human strength of all, learning and growing together." A new era had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.